You know that idea that faithful people never mess up? Yeah, forget that. Jehoshaphat was a God-fearing man, respected, strategic, wise, but he made one mistake that nearly destroyed everything he had built. And the craziest part? It was a well-intentioned mistake. That's right. Sometimes even the alliances we make with good intentions can cost us everything, especially when they're born from anxiety disguised as wisdom. And Jehoshaphat paid the price. His kingdom was hanging by a thread, his life on the verge of collapse. Now here's the twist. When everyone expected a military response, he dropped to his knees. When the pressure hit, he didn't run to his generals. He ran to prayer. And that prayer didn't just change the course of a battle. It revealed a truth many forget. God fights for those who trust him, even when everything seems lost. His mistake almost took him out. But faith, faith rewrote the ending. And what if I told you Jehoshaphat's story might look a lot like what you're facing today? Maybe you made a wrong choice, got involved with the wrong people, joined a project that seemed promising, and now you're in the middle of a storm. If you feel like it's too late to turn back, stick with me, because this story proves something powerful. Even after the fall, there's still a way forward. And sometimes, it starts with one knee on the ground. Jehoshaphat didn't just show up in history by chance. He was born in a chaotic time. Judah was torn between idolatry and the remnants of true faith. His father Asa wasn't perfect, but he was one of the few kings who dared to go against the current, tearing down idols and resisting public pressure. Jehoshaphat grew up seeing what many couldn't, that real faith isn't just talk. It takes action, confrontation, and sometimes painful sacrifice. Following the path of correction wasn't easy when error was the norm. While other kids were learning about past glories, Jehoshaphat was watching his father tear down false altars and rebuild worship to the true God. That didn't just shape his worldview, it formed his sense of responsibility. He learned early on that leadership starts at home, with examples, not speeches. It's like a child growing up seeing their parents treat people well. Chances are, they won't grow up to be cold-hearted. Jehoshaphat's faith was built brick by brick with prayer, sweat, and hard decisions, not on a stage but in the quiet space of daily choices. Here's something important. Even being raised in a faith-filled environment, you still have to choose to stay rooted in it. It's not enough to inherit grandma's Bible or have praying parents. You've got to find your own reason, your own conviction. Jehoshaphat saw good and evil up close, but it was his personal response that prepared him for something greater. Because growing with purpose isn't about getting it all right from the start. It's about realizing that even chaos can be the stage for your calling, and that calling would soon knock louder. When the throne came calling, Jehoshaphat took the throne at 35, a time when many are still trying to figure out who they are, but he already knew who he served. Instead of chasing political shortcuts or convenient alliances, he chose the narrow path. He tore down idols, reformed worship, and appointed judges committed to true justice. He wasn't just a ruler with authority, he led with faith. And let's be real, leading with faith in a world built on self-interest is a radical act of spiritual rebellion. He understood something most leaders miss. Authority without integrity is just a mask. Jehoshaphat made sure every decision, every decree, reflected his dependence on God. It wasn't about strategy, it was about conviction. So he didn't hesitate to tear down whatever dishonored God, even if it meant going against tradition. Anyone leading today, whether a business, a family, or even a group of friends, can learn this. Clear out the false altars before you try to build the right ones. Here's the deal. You can't lead others if you're not leading yourself. Jehoshaphat didn't let the crown fool him. He knew true power comes from a life grounded in prayer and constant correction. That applies to anyone wanting to influence: teachers, parents, managers, even content creators. Ask yourself, are you leading to be seen or to bring change? Real leadership opens the door to something deeper, the transformation of minds and hearts. Jehoshaphat knew ruling people without educating them was like sailing without a compass. It wasn't enough to fix worship or appoint judges. He went further, organizing a traveling school of faith, sending teachers of the law throughout the kingdom. These men taught the people patiently and clearly, using God's word as their life manual. It's like Jehoshaphat was saying, "What good is fixing the outside if people keep feeding on lies inside?" Imagine a country today where every town square echoed with truth instead of gossip, where families prayed together, and faith shaped character from childhood. That's what Jehoshaphat worked for. He knew a well-taught generation would be a wall against idolatry and corruption. So he invested in the roots, not just the fruit. And today, ask yourself, what voices are teaching your home? What content is feeding your mind and those who follow your lead? This wasn't religion for show. It was transformation. Faith became culture. Prayer wasn't a last resort. It became habit. And none of that happened by chance. It was intentional. Jehoshaphat built an atmosphere where correction was welcomed and the word was more precious than gold. Little did he know, all of this would soon be put to the test. Even the wisest can be swayed by what seems strategic. In a political move, Jehoshaphat allied himself with Ahab, a king infamous for his idolatry and contempt for God. The mistake? Thinking good intentions can make up for bad company. That alliance had a bitter price. It dragged Jehoshaphat into a war that nearly cost him his life. And he was warned by a prophet. But like many today, the warning went in one ear and out the other. It wasn't the kind of mistake you can just brush off. Ahab died. The war left wounds. And Jehoshaphat walked away, not just physically hurt, but spiritually scarred. And then, he repeated the mistake with Ahab's son, Ahaziah, a promising business venture at sea, sunk before it even began. God didn't allow it to succeed. It was like he was saying, "When will you learn? You can't mix light with darkness." And how often do we do the same? Entering partnerships, friendships, even relationships that drain our faith. Here's a practical tip. Before you join with someone, ask yourself, does this person bring me closer to God or pull me away? It's not about perfection, but direction. If they're walking the opposite way of faith, prayer, and correction, watch out. The emotional, spiritual, and even financial cost could be huge. Jehoshaphat had to deal with the loss, but that stumble wouldn't be the end of his story. It was only the beginning of a powerful turnaround, where faith would shine through the chaos. When the ground started shaking, Jehoshaphat showed where he really stood. 3 nations joined forces to attack Judah, a hopeless situation with no military solution in sight. But instead of reaching for weapons or new allies, he did the unthinkable. He called the nation to fast and pray. Imagine that today, a president declaring a national fast instead of deploying troops. Sounds crazy, right? Maybe, but that crazy faith changed everything. Gathered in the town square, men, women, and children cried out to God, and in the silence of that collective prayer, a Levite spoke, "This battle isn't yours, it's mine." Jehoshaphat's faith wasn't just nice words, it was bold, practical, alive. He believed it. He marched with the people. He placed worshipers in front of the army to sing as they advanced. And what happened? The enemy armies turned on each other. Not a single sword from Judah had to be used. Victory came without a fight, but with deep, unwavering faith. That teaches us something big. In the middle of crisis, prayer isn't the last option. It's the best strategy. It's not about closing your eyes to the problem. It's about opening your eyes to who's really in control. Maybe today you feel surrounded, out of options. The answer might be closer than you think, hidden in the silence of sincere prayer, in the decision to trust when everything screams not to. But here's the thing. Miracles aren't the end of the story. They're a sign of something deeper. Jehoshaphat ended his life marked by major victories and painful mistakes. But most of all, he left behind the legacy of someone who learned to depend on God. He didn't fade out with scandal, but with honor. And that's rare. His story shows us that even people of faith mess up badly. The difference? They recognize it, accept correction, and keep walking. And that takes something in short supply these days: humility. He could have leaned on past victories and ignored the failures, but he didn't. He matured. He realized that even the right choices need to be watched and that faith isn't a trophy, but a daily discipline. And honestly, we need to learn that too. Be firm in truth, but flexible enough to admit when we slip. That "I already know everything" mindset? Dangerous. It was humility that helped Jehoshaphat finish well. And it's humility that allows anyone to start over, even after a major fall. Today, everyone wants to leave a legacy. But what kind are you building? One that glorifies your image or one that points to your faith? Jehoshaphat showed, with his own life, that true power isn't in strength, money, or status. It's in dependence on God. And that's freeing, because if depending on Him is the secret, then it doesn't matter if you messed up yesterday. You can still get it right today. And once you understand that, you're ready to see what happens when mistakes become testimonies and faith becomes your new direction. So now what? Are you going to keep trying to fix everything your way, or admit that sometimes the only way forward is to stop fighting with your hands and start trusting with your heart? Jehoshaphat's story makes it clear. It's not about never failing. It's about what you do after the fall. Will you keep clinging to partnerships that drain you, or start building a journey rooted in prayer and real faith? Take a moment and reflect. What alliances are you holding on to that might be stealing your peace? How many decisions are you making out of fear dressed up as strategy? How much of your life is actually in God's hands? And how much are you still trying to control yourself? It's time to ask the uncomfortable questions, because in the end, only those who allow correction get to experience the miracle of restoration. If this spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to the channel now, hit the bell so you don't miss a message, and share this with someone who's in the middle of a battle and needs to be reminded. When faith takes over, even the impossible has to bow.